Hello everybody, welcome to another tutorial in the Introduction to Scripting ROBLOX Lua series. In this tutorial we're going to be learning about arrays and for loops. Quickly let's jump into arrays because we already know pretty much everything about tables. And arrays are actually just a special type of table when it comes to ROBLOX Lua. So let's go ahead and create an array, local array, and we'll just create it like any other table. Except the thing about an array, here's the thing about tables. Tables you can name, like you can have the index be anything, any type of object, a string, a boolean, whatever the heck you want, right? An array is actually all numbers, and it's all positive numbers, and it's all incrementing numbers. So you can't start at like 553 and expect that to work. That's not really an array. You have to start at 1. And actually in most languages, not Lua, but in most languages, you actually have to start at 0. But Lua is a bit more user-friendly, more human-friendly, and it starts at 1. So we'll start at 1 and we'll just make a shopping, like a grocery list. So first off, you want to get the milk. Even though it's at the back of the store, that's the first thing on your list. 2, you need to get some cheese. 3, you need some bacon. 4, you need some cola, obviously. 5, you need some corn chips. And 6, you need some bread. Okay? So, and that should be a comma. So, you're basically having a party with your array. Okay? So, let's have an array party. You're making a list. Notice how this list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 incrementing numbers. Okay, this might not seem useful to you. You remember being able to do something like local table equals this, and then you could do something like first item equals milk, and then you could print table dot first item. You probably don't see the point to having to go up here and print array 1, right? You're like, why would I want a number? That's harder for me to understand. Well, I'm about to show you the point to an array over a table. The good thing about arrays is that if you know the size of the array, you can know every name of everything in it, because it starts at 1 and it goes up to whatever the size is. So if we did something like, I don't know, we iterated and looped through every item in an array, it'd be easier if they were just numbers that incremented. I wonder if that's possible. Yes, it is. Okay, we have this thing. It's called a for loop. It's a little bit like the while loop. It does actually have a sort of condition in it. Okay, but I'm going to like demonstrate this first. So for loops often have this syntax. Okay, and I'm going to write this out in the most common way, and now I'll explain. So a for loop starts by giving the word for, and at the end the word do, kind of like while loops. You would put while and then do, except you have to define a variable. Okay, so we just defined a brand new variable here called I, and we don't put the word local in front of it. It's automatically localized only to this for loop. Okay, that's how it works. You provide a name of a variable, and this variable actually will be the index, the name of the item that you're accessing. Okay, so it's technically index, but typically we use I because it's a lot quicker, it's a lot shorter, it's a 1-letter key press, and we already understand that I stands for index. It's a programming thing that you will find across practically every common programming or scripting language. You'll find that whenever there's a for loop, typically the tradition is to use the letter I for the index variable. Next, you'll see we have array here, but the second variable, and by the way, hold on, let me explain the second part here first. You have a comma separating your first part from your second part, okay? Your second part is actually a number, okay? And I'll explain this in a second. It's a number. It's the highest number you should go to in your for loop. So in this case, we want to start at 1 and go to 6. Well, we could just put for I equals 1, 6 do, but it's not as good because we want to iterate over every item in the array, and we don't want to have to always change the number down here. Say it's a big script and you're looping through this array maybe twice, and they're like 400 lines away from each other. Why not just have it go directly off the array's size? So you can change the array however much you want, and then it will loop through on its own. Well, the good thing to this is you can do that. You provide the variable name that contains an array, or a table with an array, okay? You have your variable name, and then you put this pound symbol before it. No, this isn't hashtag array. This is number array, because the pound symbol is also the number symbol. We use it to symbolize numbers as well. So what this does, when you put a hashtag, a number sign, a pound sign, that's technically what it's called, is the pound sign. When you put a pound sign in front of an array or a table, it will actually treat this whole thing here as a number. All it does is it's the number of items in the table, okay? So in this case, what you see highlighted here is actually just the number value 6, okay? It's just 6. It just transforms the array. It doesn't give the array back. It just counts the number of items in the array, and it gives back the number of items. So this is kind of like a keyword kind of thing in Lua that just gives you the number of items. Okay? So in this case, this is 6. But if we added another item, let's say we added, okay, come on, salsa here. That would now instead of 6, this is now 7. Okay? It's the number of items in the array or table. Back to the first part, because now that you understand this will make more sense. So you name your variable that's going to be your index variable for the for loop. But then you see this equal sign 1. What you have to do is you have to give your index variable a starting value. Okay? So if we gave this a starting value of 5, then this would start at corn chips and go to salsa, and it would only do 5, 6, and 7. Okay? If we set this back to 1, though, our start value is 1, meaning we start at milk, and we go all the way to salsa. It is just your starting index. So if we go here and we print array .i, because remember, I is a variable, correct? It's a variable holding a number index. We put array I equals array I. So here's what we're doing. We are printing the array, like we're actually printing this, except without the value. And then we're printing the actual value of that item in the array. So let's go ahead and test this, so I can show you exactly how this works. All the way down here towards the bottom, we have array 1 equals milk, array 2 equals cheese, array 3 equals bacon, array 4 cola, 5 corn chips, 6 bread, 7 salsa. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so let's stop and go back to our script. Look, we just got the index changed, and then it printed out the correct thing for each item in our table. How does this work? Well, it's a for loop, okay? So for it's going to go from its starting index and add 1 all the way until it hits this, and then after it hits that, it's done. But it's going to go to the top number, which in this case is 7, and it's just going to loop through the block of code that's inside the for loop. It's just going to keep going through itself and going through itself and going through itself, and it's going to do that all the way through. And that is how your index for loop works. A for loop loops through itself starting at an index. It changes the value of a variable to fit the index that it is currently at every time it goes through the loop. And then it goes up to a certain number. And this is especially helpful for arrays so that you can loop through an array and get everything in the array without having to know the name of everything. Okay, so a good example of how this could be useful when we learn more in the future. Say you got a list of all the players in your game and you wanted to teleport them to a spawn location somewhere. The best way to do this would be an array of them, so you could just loop through all of the players and then teleport them individually. Alright, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. Hopefully you've learned a lot about for loops, and I will catch you all later.